everybody, this is David Fuller standing by with an IHWE exclusive. I am actually sitting by with the current reigning and defending IHWE champion, Thomas Shire. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
So, Thomas, you broke into the business in Ocala, Florida.
Ocala, Florida, yeah.
With Dory Funk, the Funkin' Conservatory.
2007.
So Dory Funk Jr., he's one of the greatest of all time, former NWA heavyweight champion. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He's the brother of Terry Funk, son of Dory Funk Sr. The Funks
goes on and on.
Yeah, the Funks are known the world over. One of the first families of Texas. They ran a successful promotion territory for years out of Amarillo. So not many people know what it's like to be trained by somebody like Dory Funk, because you know, slowly that generation it's just yeah, all right. Slowly that generation is
it's an exclusive.
Yeah, that's right, it is an exclusive. Slowly that generation is it's forgotten about by a lot of people who are just getting into the business or just watching the business. They don't do the proper research and learning about that generation. So Dory Funk Jr., what was that like?
First time it was really intense. You know, of course, like you said, a lot of people don't go about properly researching the history of professional wrestling, and sometimes people only go back like 5 years, you know. So
the Attitude Era,
Monday Night Wars,
–
things like that. Even some people just when Evolution started. But just my first initial meeting was really intense, just seeing there, and he's got great big hands, and they're kind of like, they're huge pillows, so they just kind of wrap around you, and you kind of feel like, you know,
you're being strangled.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're being strangled, but you're in a comforting way, if that makes sense.
That's a new one, folks.
Yeah. Like the old joke about where you wear a backpack with a turtleneck, it's like you're being strangled.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, the first initial meeting was intense, and pretty much since then it was intense, though. I trained with him for 3 years, and every day was a different learning experience, because, I mean, you have somebody, like you said, his father, Dory Funk Sr., wrestled for years, was actually an amateur wrestler for the University of Indiana. He was born in Hammond, Indiana, moved to Amarillo after he was in the Navy. So just, I think Dory said he had been wrestling since he was 6, so...
Two-time Bang TV heavyweight champion. Bang TV is responsible, and Dory School is responsible for some of the greatest stars to come out of our business in the last 2 decades. Yeah. You know, the list is I know Kurt Angle went down there, got some training.
Christian, Rhino, just from the Funkin' Dojo, which Dory called the Funkin' Dojo when he was with World Wrestling Entertainment.
Yes.
In the mid to late 90s.
It was a developmental.
Yeah, it was a developmental system. They trained up there in Stamford, Connecticut. And yeah, guys like Rhino, Christian, Kurt Angle, Edge, Albert, A-Train,
Jason Albert. Yeah, Jason Albert is heading up NXT training now. I mean, that's what, essentially, developmental, for people that don't know what that is, developmental territory is, you know, back in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, there were the territories. And when Vince McMahon went nationwide, slowly the territory started dropping. In the 2000s, I think it was Jim Cornette and Danny Davis started Ohio Valley Wrestling, which would serve as the main developmental territory for the WWE. But over the years, WWE has also used they've used Memphis. They've used Canada. There's been one up in Canada, I believe. And Dory ran one of the biggest ones. And essentially, to compare it to what you would see today, NXT, that was supposed to be what NXT was. Yeah. But now it's become its own brand.
Yeah.
So
now it's been something, it's taken, I believe Dory said that they had a room or a warehouse there in Stamford. And from just like a small place to now, I don't even know how big the developmental center is in Orlando, but yeah, I'm sure it's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes further than that, even into the late 60s, early 70s, when he was NWA World Heavyweight Champion for 4.5 years. Longest reign in the modern era.
And that was wrestling. That was wrestling guys like Luthez, and that was wrestling Jack and Jerry Briscoe, and they were going an hour. I mean, if
Every
you
night.
back in those days, if you didn't go an hour, people wanted their money back, and sometimes they went longer, 90 minutes. I've heard Dory going 2 hours. 2 out of 3 falls was an every night thing. Across the world, they would go over to Japan. He would wrestle Giant Baba. He would wrestle. I mean, everybody and anybody. So I mean, to compare it to today's generation, there's really no comparison. I know when I broke in with Johnny Valentine, Johnny was known the same way. I mean, you know, you went up to the top rope and did something. Johnny was like, I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
Dory adapted more to the current.
He did, and I think it was from going to Japan, because he trained people like Jumbo Shruda and Genichiro Tenryu and people like that. So I think having that kind of style, and even had some influence for young Misawa.
Yes.
So back when he was Tiger Mask, I remember Dory told me one story about Tiger Mask just got the character, and he was trying to get his cape on right and everything, because Tiger Mask had a grand entrance of jumping from the apron onto the top rope, but he kept on slipping on his apron, or on his cape on the top rope. And I think something like that, Dory just kind of watching somebody kind of learned through osmosis with it. Like,
sure.
Dory wouldn't go ahead and do that, but he would teach people. Like, I remember he would teach me, okay, Misawa would do this. He put his leg this way, you know. So even when he would talk about Shawn Michaels and doing a moonsault. So he wasn't somebody that was like, no, you can't do that. He's like, if you want to do it.
He adapted with the times. I mean, he was the jacket wearing. He'd come to the ring in just a jacket.
No knee pads.
No knee pads, his trunks, his boots, and he would do this before every match, and that was Dory Funk. You went on to get some big opportunities, namely you got to go to Japan. You got to train in the dojo. You actually wrestled on an All Japan Pro Wrestling pay-per-view.
Yes.
Of course, getting the opportunity to go to Japan is something just monumental.
Yeah.
You know the history there with all the promotions, Pro Wrestling Noah, All Japan, New Japan. Just everybody who's been anybody has run through Japan. And, we... sometimes you don't know what it's like until you've actually been there.
Oh, yeah.
And you've had the opportunity. So tell us about getting the opportunity to go to Japan and wrestling. The match, was it at Kurikan?
It was in the Sumo Palace.
The Sumo Palace.
Sumo
Palace, okay.
Yeah. Well, the backstory of that was Dory was having his retirement tour for Japan, which... You know, nobody ever really retires.
Of course.
In wrestling.
His brother made the term.
But he was going for his retirement tour, and I guess doing some scouting, like kind of American liaison to All Japan Pro Wrestling. And we had Osamu Nishimura, who's a great world champion there. He came to the school a few times. Dory had his retirement tour. One of the students went there. We had Antonio Thomas there, formerly a WWE heartthrob.
Yes.
He went there for 3 months, and then the second go around, now it was my turn. So I was only 20 at the time. I had been wrestling maybe a year and 4 months, 5 months, something like that. And, just going over there, I had only wrestled for Dory. And maybe 3 or 4 times in a flea market or in Stark, Florida, somewhere where it's experience, but it's not going out to Japan and wrestling in front of 500 people. I was probably 25 people.
Yeah.
And just a different culture. The food's different, the training's different. We go there, we wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I do my chores. My chores were usually sweeping out the ring, vacuuming out the ring, then bleach the ring, and then sanitize the entire gym equipment that we had, because the dojo, like, you walk in, take a right, and then there's the gym equipment, there's the ring, the famous All Japan Pro Wrestling ring. It even had like virtual pro wrestling ring aprons on it.
That's awesome.
The old blue mat and everything like that. So you just kind of you kind of take it all in. But I think for me, anything that big, and I was 20 years old, I never really ventured out that much. So even though it was a great experience, I don't feel like I fully, embraced it all,
It would be hard where you were at to do so.
And, I was 20, I'd been wrestling for, that long. And then, my first match there was teaming with Nishimura against Satoshi Kojima and Kai. So I'm sitting there like, great, what am I going to do? Like,
right.
I don't have a lot of cool moves, or I don't do a lot of stuff that can really wow these people. So, but, training with Dory, I knew the basics of professional wrestling. And, I knew how to go out there and put on an entertaining match and everything like that, but also kind of convey some emotions to the crowd and everything. So it was a great learning experience, but it was just, it was hard. It was hard training, waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning after doing 300 squats and push-ups and sit-ups and running, 5 miles and everything like that with somebody on your back. It's kind of tough. You don't really want to get up and then drive 6 hours on a bus just to go, do it an hour before the show and then wrestle a 10, 15 minute match.
Of course.
Especially that young, you kind of, you want to be rebellious and everything,
Of course.
But I think it's brought me to where I am today. It's showed me a great respect and a great discipline, through Dory's training, and then through the training of the main trainer that I had was Kaz Hayashi there. So he taught me, an even greater respect. And then now I try to, carry that on a little bit more with the way that I carry myself in wrestling here or anywhere I go. And then now I train with Funaki, so of course, there's still a connection there with Japanese wrestling and everything that he's done in Japan, and the great training that he has. It's almost like a hybrid of NXT, what they do at developmental, with Japan. So we do strength and conditioning an hour before, or hour and a half before, and then we train.
Okay.
We do rolls and everything like that, everything that you see on TV.
Yeah.
Basically, because they like to do exclusive on all that training and everything now. So, but every morning we get in the ring, we bow, we do our dojo, and then we bow in respect afterwards, because it's just one of those things. It's like, even in training, something can happen, something could get hurt.
Of course.
Someone could get hurt, something could happen. So you have to respect it, and you have to be,
Yeah.
and you have to be, in tune with everything, I guess.
Of course. Wow, yeah, that sounds like quite a journey.
It's a long journey.
Yeah, it is a long journey, but it's an opportunity that not everybody is just given. So,
yeah, I look back at it and I guess I did earn it.
Yeah.
I did earn it, and it's something that I can be proud of.
Right.
It's something that I kind of sit back and contemplate and go, oh, maybe I should have, But we're all young, and it doesn't mean that I can't go back there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So 2011 rolls around, and you make a change. You make a big change. You pack up from Florida, and then you come here to Texas. We are put in touch with one another through a mutual friend. I don't even remember who the mutual friend was.
Buck Buchanan.
Oh, okay. Not Bull, Buck.
No, not Bull.
So, not John Cena's running buddy. B squared. So, Rodney Mack actually beat up B squared, and took his spot. Short-lived. He's a Hall of Famer, by the way. So anyway, so we meet up, and automatically we talk, and I tell you about what we've done. You tell me about what you've done, and automatically I see something in you just from what you told me. And
the Harry Carey impersonation.
There you go, the Harry Carey impression. Yeah, that's it. Now I'm going to make you do that before we cut here today.
Hi.
Yeah, there you go.
That's fantastic.
So, that is fantastic. So anyway, but you brought me the footage. You brought me the tapes, and we watched the tapes. And he wasn't just coming to me saying, oh, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And, that was during a point where I wasn't really doing a whole lot, but I would still get resumes every day. You brought me the physical media, and we watched it together, and you explained to me everything in the media. And I was like, you know what, that's really cool. And, I tried to, IHWE wasn't running any live events at the time, so I tried to get you out and some things we won't talk about. But
Halloween,
the main thing was you meeting people.
Yeah.
The main thing, you got some opportunities. You got to go down in Austin and wrestle and meet some different people. You've been to St. Louis. You've gotten some opportunities to wrestle some really good people in the state, and people started to see, okay, this guy has something here. But coming into Texas, which is full of politics, and I can say it because it's the truth. It's full of politics, and anybody that comes into Texas, you know, it's not what you do, it's who you know. You know, and then last year, we announced IHWE was going to be running some live events, and, you know, you came up to me and you said, you know, 4 years ago, you told me you would give me an opportunity. Now I want it. Give me something. So the first thing we do is we announce Johnny Gargano is coming.
Yeah.
And the moment I announce that, you call me on the phone and you say, give me that match. I want it. Here's why I want it. Here's what I'm going to do with it. Give me the opportunity. Instead of giving it to somebody who won't take the opportunity, give it to somebody. Give it to me. Johnny Gargano's first match here ever. He'll be back in 2016, I'm sure, with the WrestleMania week. Okay. But the first time he was here in Texas was against you. That same night, you also won the Terry Gordy Memorial Battle Royal. So that was a really big night for you.
A huge night.
Connie Gordy was there. So tell us about that night. The IHWE returns, sold-out house, and you're wrestling in the Terry Gordy Memorial Battle Royal, and then you got Johnny Gargano.
Yeah, well, it's a long way away from the Horseman Club with Chris Wolf. You know? I have to mention Wolf because he's the one that, you know, got me started on the wild journey in Austin.
Of course.
Kind of got my name out there a little bit. But
he's the founding father of IHWE.
And he'd probably, you know, elbow me like crazy if I didn't mention him.
Yes, he would. Me too. So he's my brother-in-law, by the way, begrudgingly.
But yeah, like you said Johnny Gargano's going to be coming in. I said, you know, I need that. This is something that through everything that I've done and through the 4 years of, you know, doing the shows in a sand pit at a bar and a haunted house in front of just my mom and my sister, you know, like, let me show you what I can do. I've shown you going to Japan. I've shown you this. I've shown you that. But like, you know, you want live, right there in the ring, in my own ring. I want you to see it and feel it and everything like that. And I feel like he's someone that, like when I went to Japan, I didn't feel like I was on those people's levels, but I felt like they brought me up to their level. And I feel like he brought me up to his level on that night. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I couldn't get to his level. You know? With all due respect to Johnny Gargano, I feel like he made, you know, upped my game. You know, he made me come up to there, and then I knew, hey, I can stay here. Yeah. You know, so with that match, but I had the Battle Royal before that, so that was a little bit easier, though, because that's, I mean, I don't remember how many people were in it. There was a couple people in it.
It was, but at the same time, when it came down to you were against a 7-footer.
Yeah, that's true.
And 7-footers notoriously, well, no, I mean, getting to the end was probably easier. Yeah. But you had a 7-footer there, and the only thing you had going for you is Kevin Cross is still learning. And he's got a lot of he's a rookie still, and I know because I had a hand in his training. You know, and the Battle Royal, Kevin Cross isn't used to matches that last a good long time. He had been in there with 10 or 12 other guys. They had all taken shots at him, and by the time he came down to you and him, your conditioning, you were used to this. He wasn't. But you still had a 7-footer, and 7-footers notoriously over the years have been Battle Royal favorites.
Battle Royal favorites, of course. And I mean, like you said, a bunch of people were after him. Maybe not so much me, because you don't really have to worry about me too much. That, you know,
until it's you two.
Until it's us. Then when it gets to us, I mean, the guy was worn out. You know, I believe he hit his own partner, so he was distracted a little bit. So perfect opportunity, you know. And it was great. And then I got to meet Connie Gordy, and she's just a lovely woman.
That's a great endorsement. You're in Fort Worth, Texas. Terry Gordy's one of the greatest of all time. You're in the mecca of the Von Erich Freebird dynasty. And of course, you know, you respect Terry Gordy for all the work he did in Japan. So, and then Connie's right there, and she smacks you on the back and gives you that endorsement.
Gives me a pat on the back,
and man.
And you know, I say it was easy, but I did get a little beat up. And then once you get the pat on the back from, you know, someone like that, it's just kind of like, okay, you know, you feel relieved. And then I was like, oh, now I had to wrestle Gargano after that too, you know. But I think, you know,
You had momentum.
Yeah, the momentum and her, hey, you did a good job. And, she said Terry would be proud. But then he would also say, man, I don't know what all this is for, I'm just out here doing my job.
Right.
And, I feel like that's something also that I respect, not only just what he did in the ring, but what he did outside the ring. He's one of those guys that was extremely humble. I never had the pleasure of meeting him, but, just hearing stories and everything like that.
Well, that was a great night, and you rose to the occasion, and people said it was the greatest match in IHWE history. You and Gargano. The Battle Royal was fantastic. I thought it was great. Battle Royals sometimes are a hit or miss.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing it again on June 6th with the Skandar Akbar Memorial Battle Royal, and I think you've set a wonderful precedent because you won the Battle Royal, and then your stock just rose. Mm-hmm. Now, other superstars who are trying to climb up to that level, they see the opportunity. They're like, okay, if I can win this Battle Royal and I can be synonymously linked to a Hall of Famer, that's going to bring me opportunities.
Oh, definitely.
So
it led me to opportunities. I mean, I did have the match with Gargano before that, but, winning it made it seem like, this guy's just going into the match with Gargano. It kind of was like, okay, it had the crowd invest in me a little bit more. And then I wrestled Gargano, and then I ended up wrestling the Submission Squad with Gregory James, Nash, and Jacobs. And then... Before
we get there, at Showdown, no, you're good. At Showdown, you actually helped me. You helped me out of a situation because the Rabbit Empire was in the ring. They had taken me out. Ashton Jacobs, Gregory James, Americos. Matt Avery was on the outside. He had a baseball bat. He was looking to get in there and handle it himself because Matt doesn't like bullies, and I respect that about him, but he's a commentator for crying out loud, and I told him that, and I reprimanded him for it. But all of a sudden, you came in from the entrance.
Yes.
You were just hanging out watching the end of the show. You were watching the main event. It's DFW Championship match. Charlie Haas was also there watching. Yeah. And you decided to take it upon yourself. You jump into the ring, and you picked up the 7-foot-tall Kevin Cross, and you body slammed him in the middle of the ring, and the building erupted. It was a moment. You took a 7-footer, body slammed him out of the blue, and I think then you said Gargano, and the crowd was invested, and I think they even got more invested because they saw you for somebody who stood up or something.
Yeah, definitely, and I don't even know how I got the big guy up, to be honest with you. It's like when you hear people talk about seeing people trapped underneath cars and then just lifting up the car.
Right.
Like, I have no idea. I guess I just saw Matt Avery in there going, what is this guy doing with this bat? And then I just was like, I got to do something about it,
Sure. Thankfully you were there. I don't know what would have happened to me. And then we did the ice bucket challenge.
Yeah, and then
I
we did
almost,
thankfully that happened too, because I think I did something to my lower back and getting that ice on it right away.
I'm glad. I thought I was going to leave this world. Being in the ring for 15 minutes, keeping up with those three guys, and then having an ice chest poured over you, but we did it for a good cause. So Old School Hustle rolls around, and you're booked in a 6-man tag, the Submission Squad, who you know very well.
Oh, yeah.
They come in and they say, we want 3 of the very best. Well, I give them 3 of the very best. I give them you, I give them Ashton Jacobs, I give them Gregory James. You and Gregory James don't see eye to eye, but Greg really doesn't see eye to eye with anybody.
No.
He's a little out there.
Yeah.
He's unholy. But anyway, so you do the 6-man tag. You end up pinning Gary J, I believe. The Submission Squad, they've been all over the country. FIP, they won a trios tournament there.
Trios, they've been in Chikara.
Yeah, they've been all over the place.
Traveled to Canada.
Yes. Their resume speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So you won that, you're on a high, and then you were there getting some advice from Jim Cornette that night. You were also hanging out with Stan Hansen, again, a guy you respect and admire.
Oh, yeah.
You had all those people there, and then there was a situation with me. Once again, I'm in the ring with Mr. 5.5, the IHWE champion, Matt Riviera. And, Matt, I went in there with the plan of not getting into a physical altercation. But then I was attacked, me and Lynn Denton. So I came in here to defend myself. Not the best move. So the Empire, the Empire's in there. They're assaulting James Beard. They're assaulting Black Bart. They're assaulting Gary Young. And then the next thing I know, Jim Cornette's coming down to the ring, and he's got a whole fleet. Lance Hoyt, the American Psycho, Charlie Haas, Kyle O'Reilly, and Thomas Shire. Y'all hit the ring, and the crowd goes nuts. The Empire bolts. And then the next thing you know, I'm sitting there Yes, I think so. The crowd is chanting "Old School Hustle," which is the first time I've ever heard the name of the show chanted. It's not like you hear a "Barely Legal" or "November to Remember," something like that. You don't hear
going way back for those.
You're going way back for those. So but anyway, Slammiversary. You don't hear that. So I thought that was extremely cool. I didn't hear it. Of course, I didn't hear it because I thought my shoulder was pulled out of its socket. Yeah. I didn't hear it until after in post editing. I couldn't hear myself think, but I made the match. I made you and Matt Riviere for the IHWE Championship. And people kind of wondered why. I had Kyle O'Reilly in the ring. I had Charlie Haas in the ring. I had Lance Hoyt in the ring.
They actually cheered for
They
Lance,
cheered for Hoyt. But I made it because I knew that you would. This was an opportunity, and I saw the direction. I kind of had an epiphany. I saw the direction with you on top, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And then the next thing you know, unbeknownst to me, Jim Cornette puts himself in the match, and he's going to manage you. He comes out of retirement, first time in years. He was just there to sign autographs.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, he's going to manage you. And the next thing I know, y'all are backstage, and Cornette pulls you into a room. It's just you two, and y'all don't come out of that dressing room until it's time for the match. I know some of the things Cornette told you can't talk about.
I can't.
Yeah,
but privileged information.
Privileged information. Kind of like that Frost Nix thing we were doing earlier. Privileged information. So, okay. So, you're at gorilla position. Jim Cornette's with you. It's Matt Riviere, who's known across the United States of America. He's crooked as a politician. But he's Mr. 5.5. He's the champion. It's a big-time feel. It's a sold-out house. Hanson, the grappler there, O'Reilly's. The building is full of just legends and stars. And you're in the main event. Tell us the scene.
Tried to forget it, actually. Yeah, I mean, like you said, me and Cornette, we went back in the back, and he was just, when you have somebody like that, I'm not going to let that opportunity go at all. But just going over strategies and things like that. And then once they were like, all right, you guys get ready. First of all, I was thinking how great that Matt Fitchett and Kyle O'Reilly match was.
It was pretty awesome.
Oh no. I was watching that, and I was just trying to, keep everything in the back of my head, but keep my mind clear, because I don't want to get too wrapped up in the moment, too wrapped up into it to where I lose focus of things, because you can get too wrapped up into the big match atmosphere and everything like that.
One quick point, what's ironic is Charlie Haas had just wrestled America's.
Yeah,
he had just won the DFW championship. He comes backstage and he sees you, and he comes and takes you aside for a moment, and he gives you some words of encouragement, because Haas wanted to see you beat Riviera for the belt, because Riviera he never won the belt. He was made the champion, because Riviera had promised me a whole lot of stuff. Television opportunities,
like you said.
Sponsorship. It's all good. I made my decision. Yeah, politicians. I made my decision. But, everybody there who had ever fought and wrestled for belts and been up and down the roads, they wanted to see you, especially Jim Cornette. Especially. But Charlie took you aside and gave you, I don't know if it was words of encouragement, words of advice, and then it was ready.
It
was
more
you.
Like a kick in the ass, if I can say that. You know, he's an intense guy, and especially just after having a match, he was still in his mindset of beating Americos and winning the championship. So he was jacked up about this, and just basically led into me about.
I'm sure
you need to win this championship.
Yeah.
So.
He wanted to wrestle you.
Yeah.
He made that perfectly clear. As soon as he came backstage and he saw me, he said, I want Thomas Shire. And then, the next thing I know,
I have to win the championship.
Yes.
So I think he sees something, it's like I used to play football and I used to wrestle.
Yep.
And in high school, I used to do amateur wrestling in high school. And there was always that thing of, you would see the kind of kids that, you knew weren't going to really, achieve too much with sports.
Right.
And so the coach doesn't really do too much with them. But then there's the kids that you see, have the potential, and the coaches just ride them.
Of course.
And sometimes it's all just on how you deal with it. And I knew what Charlie was doing, but in my head I was still trying to remain calm.
This is a lot to
It's
take
a lot.
in.
Like you said, it's 4 years, and it's all started from just meeting you.
Yep.
And then now here I am, and you're actually the first person to give me an opportunity at a heavyweight championship, So I had a lot to prove. I had a lot to prove when I wrestled for the Terry Gordy Memorial Battle Royal.
Yep.
I had a lot to prove when I had to wrestle Johnny Gargano, when I wrestled the Submission Squad. And then now here it is. I have guys like Jim Cornette in the building, Stan Hansen in the building, the Grappler, Charlie Haas, Lance Hoyt. I even asked Lance a little bit, because he has everything with Japan, TNA, WWE, you name it.
Oh,
Dude's
yeah.
been everywhere.
He's done it all.
So I have so many people there that I just need to really focus all the energy and keep everything in the back of my mind, but keeping calm. And then when I went out there, it wasn't calm because the people came out. I came out there. The people were there. Jim Cornette's there with his tennis racket, waving it. Like he's in a Dairy Queen or something.
Well, people don't know about wrestling is there's a term called blowing up.
Yeah.
And no matter how good a condition you're in, if you psych yourself out enough, you will blow up instantly, and then you're running lack of oxygen, and then that automatically gives your opponent an edge.
Yeah, it gives you the edge.
He knows this guy doesn't have a whole lot of oxygen. Mm-hmm. Number one, he's not going to put up much of a fight. Mm-hmm. I can probably get a submission out of this guy real quick. It takes a lot to defend yourself. Mm-hmm. When you're down on the mat, you've got 3 seconds and a lateral press to kick out.
Yeah.
And when you have no oxygen, it takes so much to kick out. Even if you wait. And that's why a lot of guys, they'll take advantage of that 2.5. Just because it's another second for you to get more air. Mm-hmm. And then you kick out, and then you're right back on the defense. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's a lot to take in. You're out there. Yeah.
I had just tried to keep my head about it. It's the first, heavyweight title match, and it's against Matt Riviera, and I've heard so many stories about Matt Riviera. I've seen Matt Riviera wrestle for IHWE before, and I knew it wasn't going to be a fair match.
No.
To call Matt Riviera a catch-as-catch-can specialist is, isn't very fair.
Matt Riviera is a unique commodity because he knows how to do everything. Mm-hmm. He's good enough to do everything. He just takes the shortcuts.
Yeah, and that's he's not a knock on the guy's wrestling ability or anything like that, but he has the talent, but he's just not going to take it.
No, but let me ask you this: you had one of the dirtiest players in the game in your corner. So and Jim for once was on the good guy side, which never happens. He said it himself. He said, "Oh my God, I come back to DFW and no one wants to kill me," because when he came down with the Midnight Express. Down here, we're World Class Championship Wrestling. When they were wrestling the Fantastics, oh my goodness, Jim would walk out to his car, tires would be slashed, windows would be broke. It was ridiculous. So Jim, now on your side, because Jim's older now, he's a Hall of Famer. He respects tradition. He respects what we're trying to do. And luckily, me and Jim have struck up a friendship. And so Jim met my son. He met my family. So when Matt put his hands on me, I think Jim just automatically went into and the fact that they did assault many Hall of Famers that night.
Yeah.
Anyway, luckily Stan Hansen has stepped out during that point because man, I can only imagine Stan getting in there and you see the lariat return. So anyway, but yeah, so you're in the match, and now you and Matt are wrestling. You're having quite the wrestling match. You talk about catch-as-catch-can. You and Matt are trading some classic wrestling, classic technical wrestling. But now we've got Morgan Dollar, who's the executive vice president of the Call for Alley Club. I knew he was going to call it right down the middle. Matt didn't want James Beard referee, and he refused to go out there. James Beard refereed, so we made Morgan the rep, who Matt doesn't like either. I don't think Matt likes any referee that is going to make him abide by the rules. Yeah. So now we're getting to the nitty gritty. You're on the floor. Here comes Boyd Bradford, and now all shenanigans are out.
It just spilled out from there, as you say. And with Jim Cornette, you say he was one of the baddest, but usually it takes one of the baddest to be that good.
That's true.
And for someone like that, he saw what Boyd Bradford was doing.
Yep.
He saw what Matt Riviera was doing.
He took off running.
And he interjected himself in a big way. And I don't think if it wasn't for Jim Cornette being there, I don't think I would be here with this. I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you and discussing everything. Because, I mean, if he was just somebody who didn't care, he was just there.
You got hit with the belt.
Yeah, I got hit with the belt. I got hit with the tennis racket.
You kept kicking out. What made you? I mean, getting hit in the back with the belt is
stupidity. Really? No, I mean, like I said, it's my first opportunity at a championship like this, and I was gonna do everything that I could. I mean, I had Charlie Haas, I had you, I had Jim Cornette, I had Lance Hoyt, people like that, you know, telling me and trying to help me and back me up with everything. Because, I mean, you didn't want to see Matt Riviere be the champion at the end of the night either.
No, he was holding the belt hostage.
Yeah. So, I mean...
The only thing I can measure it to is you were not going to... You did not want to see the line of faces if you came back and you didn't have that.
Yeah,
it would be like a warning.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you tell all your family that you're going to win the World Series with a home run, you strike out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You kind of come home and it's like everybody understands, you know, because it's something that's hard to do.
You can't. Oh yeah, in baseball you can't. You know, you got to hit the ball.
Yeah.
So Matt Riviere, he's hit you with everything. Jim Cornette's famous tennis racket, and goodness knows what he had in there.
I don't know, but it hurt so bad.
Yeah, the belt. So now
I don't know what hurt worse, slamming Matt Cross or getting hit by that racket.
So Matt is going back to basics. He's going to finish you off with the pile driver. Now, what many people don't know, the pile driver is outlawed in many companies, in many states. It's probably the most dangerous move in wrestling history. It can go, everybody's seen it. You've seen it with Steve Austin. It can go really bad. It can end careers. It can affect lives. So Matt is going to... And I think if he would have hit that pile driver, it would have been over for you. And maybe in more ways than one.
Definitely.
Because Matt isn't going to hit you with a powder puff pile driver. If he goes to hit the pile driver on you, he's looking to finish you. Because, you know, he can knock you down, but you're going to keep getting back up. He needs to finish you. And you go back to something you probably learned in Ocala, Florida. You pulled Matt's legs out, and you rolled him up in a basic cover.
The old Bob Geigel special.
There you go. 1, 2, and you caught Matt Riviere by surprise because he had hit you with everything but the kitchen sink, and he knows you're winded because you've been in there for 20 minutes. Pile driver. He knows this is it. You catch him by surprise, and I think you had a 5-second window. Luckily, you only need a 3. Yeah, I think you had a 5-second window to catch Max by surprise. You only need a 3. 1, 2, 3, and then wow. The parade, the party began.
Yeah. You know, because I think a lot of people had faith in me, but, you know, sometimes you have faith in people, but then, I mean, there's only so much. I get thrown to the outside, I get hit by this, I get hit by the tennis racket, I'm about to get finished off. People are kind of, you know, deflated at that point. And, you know, just as soon as that 3 count hit, I mean, I didn't know. You know, it's kind of like, what?
You can look on your face because Cornette grabbed the belt and Cornette's with you, and you don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on.
Cornette's keeping you raised up.
The fans and the people know what's going on, but I'm just kind of like, what? And then I see the belt and Cornette, and I'm like,
I must have won.
I won. You know, but once I shook everything off and I saw the people and everything like that, and
the locker room cleared.
The locker room came out. I don't know why.
It was a moment.
I'm a nobody. But, you know, it's just a great sense of pride and a great, you know, like kind of like I did it.
Yeah.
You know, like I did it. This is going back to Ocala and, you know, getting my face rubbed into the mat and getting stretched and going to Japan and, you know, cleaning and doing all the young boy duties and carrying bags and everything like that. And it was one of those things where I think you said, like, a lot of people come in here and, you know, it's not just Texas that has politics.
No, it's all over.
It's all over, but I think a lot of people see me and they're like, oh, okay, this guy talks about, you know, that he did this and this and this, but, you know, does he really deserve stuff?
Sure.
And in here, I deserve it, you know. And I'm going to do everything I can to keep it, because that feeling, I want to keep on feeling that every single time. Every time I either tap an opponent out or if I get a 3 count, however I do it, I want to be the one with my hand raised, and I want to feel that, and I want to have this, because this is the greatest feeling in the world, really. You know, to have something like this, and then now here it's opened up. You know,
Yep.
It's a smorgasbord.
Yeah.
If I pronounce that right.
Yeah.
But English isn't my best.
Well, I think what's so great about the company is it's not just another indie company.
Yeah.
We associate ourselves with the past, and you respect that because of where you came from.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
you like the fact that you know you're going to show up to defend your title, and you like the fact that you know that hey, Stan Hansen's going to be there tonight, or Mark Lawrence is going to interview me, or you know, Black Bart's going to pat me on the back and say, "Good job, kid."
Good job, kid.
You know,
just don't hit me with that branding.
Yeah. And you like the fact that, you know, at any given time, now you can talk to Jim Cornette, and I know he gives you pointers all the time, and he's very proud of you. And it was a wonderful, wonderful end to a wonderful night, a wonderful year for IHWE. And now we're in 2015.
Kicked it off good, didn't we?
Yeah, kicked it off good, and now you have become the hunted. So, you know, you got Charlie Haas staring you down. I think it's going to be fantastic. You know, the first time y'all stepped into the ring with each other, it ended a very controversy. And that's what happens sometimes. You know, and, you know, I was, that's why I was like, you know what? We need to do this, because Charlie came up to me and he was like, but not only that, but you did the same thing. You came up to me and said, "That's not the way a championship match should end." I know, we went home that night simply because we had done beating the tar out of each other. We need to do this again. So, you got your wish.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something you'll be patting me on the back for, thanking me afterwards, because putting you in the ring with Charlie Haas is like putting you on the yard with the biggest, baddest dog that there is.
You know, when I'm up for the challenge, me and Charlie, what happened in April, I don't want to get into too
Sure,
much,
I understand.
Because it's just one of those things that, you know, I don't particularly care too much for. But, you know, Charlie's a professional, you know, and having someone like that, someone with all that experience, I consider myself, you know, I don't really consider myself one of those tough guys, you know, but I'm somebody that can go in there and I can take some punishment, you know, but I'm going to dish it out too. Charlie, I have a great respect for the man. In April, you know, he really showed me a little bit of what he can do. I don't think he put, you know, too much into it.
It's feeling out process.
Yeah, you know, like I don't feel like we got to that point where he completely put everything out on the line. You know?
I think he underestimated you.
I don't know if it was that or not, but
considering
you know,
who he's been in the ring with.
It could be because he's been in there with some
Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, Chris Hero, Cesaro, Eddie Guerrero, John Cena. The list goes on and on and on.
Yeah, you know, and he's someone that's been to All Japan. You know, so I mean, this time around, I think it's going to be one of those things where he comes in, he's not going to let up. You know, and that's what I like. I don't train, you know, with Funaki for nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't go in there and try to hone my craft and, you know, refine my skills and everything like that. I don't go in there and, you know, do the bench presses and the squats and the deadlifts and everything like that just so I can go in and have somebody give me half of what I deserve, you know.
Show Funaki in a very short conversation with me, because that's all I'm allowed to have with the man, because you know, he's lived in Texas for so many years, but you know, come on, Funaki, you're in Texas. Funaki has said that he is drilling Charlie Haas stuff into your head, because he's been around Charlie.
Oh yeah,
he's been up and down the road with Charlie, so he knows.
Actually, this past Wednesday, he told me about because he used to wrestle Charlie and Shelton all the time. Yeah, and he would tell me, like, this is something that they can't. You know, he can't defend this. Right. You know, he'll tell me, because Funaki is actually someone, not a lot of people know this, but he was trained by Fujiwara.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, a lot of people know the Fujiwara armbar, but this man is a specialist, you know.
Sure.
So a lot of people might see Funaki and be like, oh, he's such a nice guy, you know, he's always been a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, but if you go in there and you say, you know, sir, I see this, and he wrenches it, he puts it on you, and that's something that I feel he's conditioning me for someone like Charlie, because he knows, you know, Charlie so well from their time together. Sure. You know.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Shire, the IHWE heavyweight champion, hopefully for a long time. Hopefully. He's going to battle Charlie Haas at the biggest IHWE event of the year, Old School Hustle. It's coming to you on June 6th at the Crowley Recreation Center. The Southern Wrestling Hall of Fame, Steve Dr. Death Williams is going to be inducted. I know you're a big fan. It's going to be a great night, great weekend, actually, of action. Don't you dare miss it. Go to IHWEnow.com for more information. You make sure you subscribe to us on Facebook, you follow us on Twitter, and you stay tuned on our global YouTube channel. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. We'll see you at the matches.